Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Rakat, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teacheth the Bible in 100% truth. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, especially the 144,000, who consist of the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans in the land of the Americas, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, back speaking on prophecy. It's been a couple of weeks, and I just felt unwell again. I think the beginning of October, I caught a chest infection. I got rid of that in about 10 days, and then it kind of came back last week. So I've been battling with that, but it didn't really come back as bad as it did before. But I was still kind of affected my chest and everything. So I managed to get rid of that. I have both times I haven't been to the doctor. I don't go to the doctor. Do what I can do at home. You look up your natural remedies and so on and so forth. It's always a better option. But in the last video, a couple of weeks ago, I did speak about you know people realizing we're in that time. We've been speaking these prophecies and giving out the warning of what's about to come to pass. And people hear it. You tell people, and maybe it doesn't really register how important or how soon these things are going to happen. But now we're in the time where people on their own accord are starting to see things. So now that I found like people then want to ask you questions instead of, whereas before you're trying to like tell them. It's changing. And even this week, the last couple of weeks, again, someone else that I've told them before, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I've told them that you're a Hebrew Israelite, blah blah blah. And then he was asking me questions as well in the last week or so. So I wanted to just bring this one out. It says Romans 8:16 says the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So you have people are seeing things that are happening around the world, and some people, they do understand certain parts of the scriptures. They have our people, they do try to find the Most High, and that's why you'll find them in amongst all different religions. They've lost their own identity through the history, and with that being a godly people, the nation of Israel, according to the Bible, you've got 18 nations. That's how the Most High sees the people on earth. And so within that, there's one chosen nation, which is the nation of Israel. Within that, there are 12 tribes, 12 tribes who make up the children of Israel. And that's what it's speaking of, the children of the Most High. It says, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. It says, and if children, then heirs, heirs of the Most High. It says, and joint heirs with the Anointed, who is his Son, who is Yahweh Shai. It says, if so, be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. So you coming back to the understanding in your identity. This is all part of that. It says, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. So at the time, like us, we've been through these particular captivities. We're living under the rule of other people. We've been through these various curses, and now the Most High is about to bring that all to an end. And so this great judgment, that's what we keep warning. Jacob's trouble has pretty much started. All the elements are there. The only question is how long between now and when Yahushua returns. You've got a few major events to take place. You've got the introduction of the MOTB, Mark of the Beast, Revelation 13, and you've got World War III, the Battle of Armageddon. And within the Battle of Armageddon, there'll be eventually it will lead to nuclear warfare, and that will result in destruction of America and the land of Israel as it's known today. So that's all Bible prophecy. And so, like I say, people are seeing it. They're starting to realize you look around the world, you look through the news, and it's hectic. There's a lot going on. There's the types of things that are going on, drastic events happening in all sorts of places, and even like even with all these things, you had Jamaica, you've had the whirlwind, so on and so forth. A lot of people spoke about Jamaica. This person that I was speaking to a few days ago, he was asking me questions, and then I mentioned Jamaica. I said, look, the Most High's judging Jamaica, and he sent whirlwinds there, and I said to him, that's Jamaica's a country with more churches per square mile, and he straight away he said to me, yeah, he knows because he's from Jamaica. So he goes, yeah, I know. He goes, so he's kind of putting two and two together. He's going, well, you got a hell of a lot of churches, but the Most High just judged you like that. That's why he's asking me questions, and I'm telling him, this is the beginning of Jacob's trouble. So you see, the Spirit beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. So obviously within that, our people, we don't know who the elect are, and it's very late in this stage, but there are people yet still to maybe come to the realization and start calling on the name of Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, the true names of the God of the Bible, not God, not Jesus, or whatever else. So people are, within their spirit, they're witnessing it, and then they're remembering. They're going, well, those Hebrew Israelites, they're onto something. The things that, and we're the only ones that really give clear-cut answers about the future. No other religion will do that for you. So that's because this is obviously, powered by the Holy Spirit, the true Spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, not a false idol, not a false God. So you've got this introduction, and see, this is why it's important. You see, this message is going out, and we keep saying we're at this time, Jacob's trouble. This is Apostle Peter, 1 Peter chapter 4. It says, for the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of the Most High. It says, and if it first begin with us, it says, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of the Most High? It says, and if the righteous scarcely be saved. So that's what's going to happen in the time of trouble. That's like I keep saying, we're in Jacob's trouble. We're at the beginning of it. It's not a 2-week event. We've been saying that for a year. You've had the introduction of Trump, and he's coming in that same spirit that he came when he was Nero. And since that time, we've been saying to you, this is Jacob's trouble. So throughout this time, and then coming, building up to the day of the Lord, it says here, the righteous will scarcely be saved. It says, so where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? So, so what about them? It says, wherefore let that suffer according to the will of the Most High, commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing, as unto a faithful creator. So we're in that time. We keep saying that Jacob's trouble's here. Things are starting to pop off around the world. People are witnessing it. So it's not at the point now like it was before, where you had to say to them, look at the prophecies, look at the, it's coming. And people kind of found their hand, but then now people are starting to pay attention, which is a good thing, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. So you've got people starting to witness it. Their spirit beareth witness. But what they have to understand is the righteous scarcely be saved. This is where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear. And so, like I say, the time, you go back to verse 17, says, for the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of the Most High. And that's why we keep saying with Jacob's trouble. You've seen, obviously, with the introduction of ICE, straight away that when, that was, we're at the beginning stages, so it's not like we've gone deep into this problem yet. When 2026 comes, we will get a lot deeper into these particular problems. But you've seen, for example, ICE chasing down the Northern Kingdom. Donald Trump says he wants to deal with the gangs. So now he's, even if the world don't know it, who these particular people are, he's pretty much pointing at the Southern Kingdom. You then have, tornadoes and hurricanes hitting Jamaica, which is what this person was asking me about the other day. And then even in the Punjab, I wanted to bring this one up. So you type in the Punjabi floods or Punjab floods 2025, and so they're getting judged there by the Most High with weather that is destroying the land and the agriculture. So you see, and this is where, if you would, how can I describe it? This is where I came from through this path of, I'm a Hebrew Israelite, but before I used to refer to myself as a Hebrew Israelite. I was referring to myself as a Sikh person or someone from the Punjab, even though I've grown up in the West, in the UK. But so these people go back to the Israelites. I've done videos on it before. They're classed as Indian in this world today, but then you have a different type of Indian, which is like a Hindu. And so, these Sikh people, obviously today's very mixed. So you find Sikh people all over the world with the turban. But ultimately, when you go back, they were sort of sectioned off in the Punjab, whereas you got Hindu people who had the rest of the country. So there is a difference between these particular people. They don't have the same background, and then they don't have the same customs because of their background. You see the Sikh people who have the turban, which they got from Israel originally. They carry the sword, and so on and so forth. So they picked up these customs. They're not customs of the scriptures necessarily, but they picked them up from the ancient times, from where they came. You had the diaspora, for example. You've got Israelites in Africa, and some of them would have found their way from Kenya to India. You had the Silk Road slave trade, so that's another way Israelites would have found their way to, by slavery, would have found their way to the Far East and into Asia, and Lower Asia, Southern Asia, and so on and so forth. So, in these particular areas, you do have, obviously, as the scriptures tell you, you have a lot of Israelites mixed. But judgment is judgment. It doesn't matter, what you call yourself. If you're of the house of the Most High, then the Most High is going to judge you. And so we're in that time. And so, like I say, you're seeing it happening around you, and you're seeing it with Israelites in the Punjab. It's just whether you realize that they're Israelites or not. So we're in that time. But most importantly is this particular prophecy here. I'm kind of like brushing over basics, but like I say, obviously I've got people asking questions, and you kind of need to bring them up to speed. It's important to know where we are. There's a lot of people that think they can sit down, get the information, and then disappear. But it doesn't work like that, because this is prophecy. This is a real Most High. This is not a false God. So you have prophecy that's happening. So we tell you, look, these are future events. We read them through the scriptures. Then they happen. So you have to come back in 2 weeks' time to see what's happened or what's not happened. And then you know where we are along the clock of prophecy. Ultimately, that's what decides everything. And to saying that, the clock deciding everything, the average age of a kingdom is 250 years. The average age of an empire, and the current empire is ruled by America, which are hitting 250 years next year. You had Britannia just before that; they were roughly about the same. That's the average age of empires. So when you're looking at the end of an empire or the end of an age, you've got to look at prophecy. That's your clock. And so we got this one here, Revelation 13 and 16 says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand. So when you translate that into the Greek, it will take you back to your dominant hand. It says, or in your foreheads. It says that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So this is a major prophecy. So if you're kind of coming to this new, you're picking this up lately, and the Spirit's hitting you, and you're starting to search for answers, you can see what's going on around the world. This is the main thing that you should be looking out for. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their dominant hand or in their foreheads. That forehead, the word goes back to meta, like metapon, like Neuralink, pretty much. It says, and then you've got the device that goes in you under your skin, the RFID microchip that allows you to buy and sell. You could look that up. A lot of people in Sweden have that today, and you can use that for identification purposes. You can use that to gain entry into a building, and you can use it to buy, as a payment method. So, but the actual fulfillment of the prophecy is when the whole world's when he causeth all. So when the whole world's told that's the only way you can buy or sell, and then we know that's that particular prophecy. It's time for that particular prophecy. So that brings me on to this particular video here. When gold doubles, the system resets. And so again, I'm brushing over this because obviously we keep going over this message all the time. But like I say, you've got new people coming in, so you have to kind of bring them up to speed. If they're of the elect, if the Spirit's going to work with them, then it will do its thing. So you just kind of got to do the part and bring them up to speed. And it's important to know. We're close to the return of Yahushua. But this particular video here, so I spoke of the time. For example, you looking at the time. How do you tell the time? How do you know when this kingdom's going to go? Or how do you work out particular signs? The scriptures tell you to look at various things. Signs in the skies, in the heavens. And then obviously we understand certain prophecies that are due to take place. You've got the introduction of the MOTB. The whole world gets told you can only buy or sell through this particular method. That method's going to involve a device under the skin. And that payment method will be through digital system, because you can't use credit cards or cash. So it pretty much involves a cashless society. You've got World War III, you've got the destruction of America, you've got the return of Yahushua. So economic collapse is a major part of that. To bring in the MOTB, to bring in that system where you say to people, look, you now have to buy or sell. It has to be this device under the skin, and it has to be a digital system. You have to first do away with the old system. I know I'm speaking in basic terms because obviously I want it to be understood in basic terms. So that's where we're at. You look around the world today, there's all these different wars going on. There's rumors of wars. That's how the scriptures tells you. You've got inflation in various countries for various reasons. The thing that happened in 2020, 2021 with the lockdowns, the printing of the money, all these things. And then you look at the debt of America today, and it's pretty much at bursting point. So why is America important? See, this is another thing that, for example, you speak to people in the UK, they, what did Vocab Malone refer to it as being America-centric? But that's the thing, you see, America are the center point of this today's world. And so their currency is the strongest currency in the world. And it obviously you have a fiat currency system. And so their currency is, to a degree, keeping it afloat. But when the currency crashes, so does the system. You can have all these various things that are going on, like inflation today, but then you need a tipping point. Tipping points are usually, for example, wars. So when there's a war, when there's like the Second World War, they then have to print money by to they have to send troops out. They have to produce ammunition and weapons. So all of a sudden, the the value of your currency is weak because you're now printing money and just sending it out there. Another trigger for, as it says here, when gold doubles, the system resets. It's just happened. So this is the news I'm bringing you. This is 2 weeks ago. I was sent this video by someone, and I'm going to leave the link for this in the description box. So this is Mark Moss, and what he does is he talks you through the economic problems basically of various empires, as you can see here. So it says on the right hand side, it's got Rome's warning, the fall of the denarius. It's Britain's fall, the end of the pound empire. And then in that, he also brings up France and a few other places. And then he goes into today's warning, gold doubles again. See, the trigger for one of the triggers for the I'm just trying to remember how he broke it down. One of the triggers for like a economic collapse is gold doubling. And then another thing would be, for example, something like a war to come along. This is exactly how he described it. For then like a war to come along, and then you have to then print. You're forced to print money, and then you're then driving up inflation. So these are something that we keep telling you about. We're waiting for this economic crash. When they bring an economic crash, they're likely to say, well, we're going to set up a new system, and it's going to be digital. And at first they might say, you use it on your phone, just like your digital ID is going to be on your phone. But eventually they're going to have to, bring a reason then to make you take the device under your skin. And this is all going to happen very soon. We're not talking 10, 20, 30 years. We're talking in the next 2 to 3. Donald Trump is his administration is the last administration of America. They're that peace and safety, as the scriptures tell you, that the peace and safety administration. Will they last 4 years? Will they last 8 years? Personally, I don't think they'll even last the full 4 till the end of 2029. But obviously we'll see, and this is why you got to keep your eyes on these particular things. Like I say, especially if you're new coming into this. So now we've got this gold doubling. When gold doubles, the price of gold doubles. He's written it here. Let me it says when gold doubles, empires fall, and it just happened again. But this isn't just a historical pattern, it's a mathematical certainty. And while most people will focus on the chaos that follows, they're missing the real story, the single greatest transfer of wealth in human history that has now been triggered. So it's already been triggered with the events that have been happening, and there's all you're waiting for now is just something like a war to come along. We know that's happening. The beginning, I remember in the beginning of 2023, I brought out an article, and the small hats, they were saying that Iran, they expect them to have their nuclear ICBM. That's if it's true. That's even if it's a true thing. They might just be making that story up as an excuse to go in there and create war. But their thing back in 2023 was by 2026 they expect them to be pretty much ready with their ICBM. So they're going to have to do something by then. And then obviously, you've got your October the 7th. We've seen that situation come along. So the small hats triggered it, just like the scriptures tell you, Jeremiah chapter 49. So we've like I say, if you're new and you're coming into this, you've got to realize these prophecies have been ticking off over the last couple of years, and they're getting more we're getting closer to the pinnacle, to the end, to the time like never been seen before, which is going to be faced all over the planet Earth. You've got nuclear ICBMs that are going to be hit. To someone asked me like a couple of weeks back, like, what is your take on the small hats on Gaza? And what I was saying to him is, to push the nuclear ICBM is a serious thing. You don't just do that because someone pissed you off and he didn't answer the phone. You got to do it for a real reason, and the world is being given the reason, and it's been drawn out. We're coming like it's about a couple of years. It's been coming up to 2 years. I think, is it? I don't know. Yeah, 2023. Yeah, so 2024, 2025. So they've been doing that thing for 2 years in the Middle East. They keep coming up with these peace deals, then they break it. The small hats are always the ones that break the peace deal, and then it goes back to the ceasefire. Then it goes back to fighting. So at some point this has to turn out into a all-out war, the Battle of Armageddon. Gold, like it's telling you here, when gold doubles, the system resets. So we've had that, and now you're just waiting for something like a war to come along, create inflation because people have to start printing money, and there goes your problem. All of a sudden, you go to buy a loaf of bread and you need a bucket of cash because your money's worth nothing. People wake up and you've got £100,000 savings, and all of a sudden you can't buy anything with it. You see, and what this involves, the scriptures talk about a time like never been seen before. And you got to consider the amount of people that live in the Western society, like Europe, like America. You earn your. I mean, I've been doing it for years. You earn your wages at work, and they pay for your bills, and then you go and earn your cash on the side. And there's plenty of people that earn a living, just making cash. And once they remove that cashless society, the world's going to have a massive problem. So you're going to see a lot of uproar in Western societies, a lot of people taking to the streets. To me, that's a big thing. You take away cash, and you think about all these drug dealers. What are they going to do? They're sitting at home with a gun, and they're angry, and now their cash is worth nothing. So all of a sudden, they're going to go and do something. They're going to be angry. They're going to take to the streets. You're going to have other people. There's loads of people in the construction trade, illegal immigrants in a country. They've dumped illegal immigrants. They've opened up the borders in America and UK, dumped illegal immigrants over there. What do you think they're earning? They're earning cash. Then when they take cash away, what do you think that people are going to do? They're going to be angry. And they're going to be on the streets. You've already got the immigration problem. And this is what they're doing. They're creating the chaos, order out of chaos. So they create the chaos and they let it get hectic, and then they bring the order. But this time the order is the new world order. It's a major reset. It's a digital currency, no more cash. It's complete lockdown. They literally want to lock down the world and have them on a grid, on a screen. So, once that comes into play, like I say, they're likely to have a digital system where you can use it on your phone. So at first, you're okay to do that. The Most High won't destroy you for doing that. But when they say take the device under the skin, that's when it's a no-go. All these different things, your identification app and your driver license app and the app, to buy and sell on your digital currency, when they crash the system, they will merge them all into one, and they'll say, look, this device under the skin. You look it up in Sweden, there a lot of people have got it. And so once that comes in, this is the thing you can't do. But once that comes in, you're going to have a lot of people around the world fighting it. And at that point, we expect the return of Yahushai, the return of the Lord, the Son of the Most High. We expect that to be quite close. Because how long can people go? Especially the elect. How long can they go without eating, basically? You go on the comment boards, you see people, and they're like, "Oh, we'll fight the system. We're gonna fight this. Say no to digital." And it's like you ain't gonna be able to fight it. And sometimes I leave comments there. I say you're not gonna be able to. I explain it. I say, well, look, when you can only buy or sell digital, but you don't want to take the digital, And you're saying we're going to fight it. What are you going to fight it with? And then they come back with, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to. And I say, well, you ain't going to last more than 2 days without food. And then they don't come back with anything because you're not going to. What can you do? So that's how they're going to cause all to go into that system. And, it takes a lot of faith and strength to, at that point, say, no, I'm not going to take it. You've got your whole family trying to tell you to take it. Oh, we can't eat. How are we going to live? It might only be a month where that you have to live under that scenario, but that's going to be one hell of a month, for the whole world. At the same time, you're going to have World War III going on, the Battle of Armageddon, the mountain of troops in the Middle East. And then, like I say, at some point, these nuclear ICBMs are going to fly. When they fly, then they hit America, then the world starts to rock. This is all prophecy. When the world starts to rock, the land breaks, islands move, the land moves, and you have a new map. So all your gas supplies, your electric supplies, all going to be broken. Water supply, waste, sewage supply, everything's going to be broken because all the land's going to move. So, there'll be no more going back to what you're witnessing today. You look at the world today and you look at the military strength and the control. What it takes is going to have to take a higher power to take them out. The world is at the worst state it's ever been. Humanity in its worst mental state that it's ever been since it existed. And that's why the Most High has to come and just literally just annihilate this kingdom. He's got to leave people alive. So he's not going to starve the whole world and just kill everybody and just be left with just the elect. He's obviously you're going to have people in the kingdom of heaven. But for example, anyone on the land of America, unless you're of the elect, you're gonna be flattened, destroyed under these nuclear ICBMs. So I typed in here cashless society news. Just pretty much to kind of see, this is happening all around the world. It says the risks of becoming a cashless society. Major banks are predicting Australia will soon become a cashless society. Cashless society. Is it time for Scotland to trash cash? There you go. There's a saying, a slogan. Time to trash cash. Farage exposes new push for cashless society. Australia, so Farage is in the UK. Australia edging closer to becoming cashless society. Banks want you to go cashless. So it's happening all around the world. Is cash dead? The truth about Britain's cashless society could hit the vulnerable hardest and leave many struggling to pay for everyday essentials. Because once cash is gone, then a lot of people aren't going to be able to pay for the things the way they're paying for them at the minute. A lot of people do a lot of black market things to earn money. It doesn't have to necessarily be guns or drugs. It can be other things. People they get in certain things. You might be like a hairdresser. You're working from home, earning extra money on the weekend, and you're gonna have to declare that money. It's gonna have to be digital. Or, like I say, even if they haven't got to the point where you put the device under the skin, but they crash the system, then in between you'll have a digital system on the phone, and so people might be trying to earn on the weekend, but all of a sudden now they're going to have to declare it. It's going to be all sorts of issues, and that's a big thing. And the thing with the cash is, it's not going to happen where they're going to tell you. It's just you're going to wake up one day and it's going to happen. All these people, they're going to lose their minds. All these people that have saved up money in their banks, and then one day you're going to wake up and they're going to realize that it's not worth anything, and that time is coming real soon. And that's why, to me, that point is a big point which people take to the streets. This is the pros and cons of a cashless society and its potential. Sweden, that's the one I wanted to see. Yeah, cashless in Sweden. Cashless society becoming a channel member, blah blah blah. So you can look these things up. In Sweden, there's thousands of people living with the device under their skin, in their dominant hand. And they, like I say, I've said it before, they use it to gain entry into buildings, maybe even to start the car, to buy products if they go into the shop. Where you would wave your Apple Pay or your credit card, they just wave their hands, and they use it for identification purposes, so on and so forth. So there are people actually living with that. And this has been going on for years in Sweden, and a certain number of thousands of people. And so this is not some sort of far stretched, you know, to the you ain't got to stretch to the depths of your imagination to understand what I'm talking about. Like I say, if you're coming to this now and you're realizing it's because you're waking up, you're seeing what's going on. On one hand, you see the digital push. On the other hand, you see a lot of chaos. You see them talk about war, civil war in America, even in England. There's a problem with the immigration. And this is what a lot of people are, especially brown people, they're asking themselves, well, what's really going on here? You're living in England. You've made this life for yourself. But, where's this going to end? And obviously, if you're an Israelite, like I say, your spirit might be calling you to find this truth. So, I'm not going to go too much deeper. Acts 17, Apostle Paul, Acts 17 and 22 says, Then Paul, in the midst of Mars Hill, and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. And this is what you'll notice, the same thing with Israelites today. They don't call themselves Israelites. They call themselves other things, and they may call the Most High. They believe in the Most High. They want to understand. They can see what's going on in the world, and they want to be able to piece the pieces together. It says, For as I passed by and behold your devotions, it says, I found an altar with the inscription, it says, to the unknown God. It says, Whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you. So this is what goes back to your spirit bearing witness with the spirit, that you are the children of the Most High. You know this book's for you, and you know the answers are in it. Somebody's told you in the past that you're a Hebrew Israelite, but life is life, and you just, for whatever reason you haven't got round to it. But here we are now. It's 2025, and people are starting to see it. If you can see it, and you understand what I'm saying to you, don't take it as a condescending thing. It's a good thing, because you've basically, the Most High may be giving you that chance to be delivered in that day. So you understand, like this person that I was speaking to, what's happened to him before. In the past, he's had certain events that he's told me about, encountering, let's say, angelic beings. He's told me he's like had dreams, and he's gone to sleep, and then he's had dreams, he's woken up, he's gone back to sleep, and he's continued the dreams. And spirits showing him this, that, and the other, so on and so forth. So, like I say, we're in that time, and things are going to get hectic real soon. Our people, that there are the elect out there, they don't know who they are, and at some point the Spirit has to tap them on the head and let them know. But we're here to let you know that the unknown God, the unknown Most High, is Yahweh. His Son is Yahweh Shai, and that's the names you should be calling on. When it comes to cashless society, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? How are you going to survive? And that's your answer, the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. That's literally what you got. Like for example, this video is talking about gold, and then, people say, well, go and buy gold, go and buy silver. So when the system crashes, you got a bit of control because you have buying power. Real money is gold and silver. Everything else is just a currency, but currencies come and go. So, when you got inflation, for example, you got currency crash, having gold, having silver helps because you have something to trade with. But me personally, I'm not even preparing myself in that way. I just wait on the Most High. So I think as long as I got that name, I've got the true understanding of the scriptures. I got prophecy, the understanding of prophecy. I got the name, so that must mean the Most High is working with me. So that's all. That's all I need. Because at some point I will wait to be delivered from said scenario, and that's kind of the mindset you've got to be in. But you can't just wake up and decide to be in that mindset tomorrow when trouble kicks. When it really gets hectic. So if the Spirit is working with you now and bringing you back to this, you kind of start taking it all on board and building up that faith. So I'm going to leave it right there. I hope that was edifying. Until next time, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Rakat Kwadash. Until next time, Shalom.